you can. So now we're cyber recording. Presenting tonight, cybersecurity basics. This is digital security basics. It's for a vast amount of people that come from different knowledge bases, whether you know a lot about tech or a little about tech. This is designed to be a pretty good primer for those who are old hands at it, or those just coming into it. The practices and the ideas of security culture are pretty universal, and they're not just confined to tech. We are specifically talking about cybersecurity or digital security here. At the end, we'll also have a deep Google filing session. It's going to be pretty open-ended because I myself am also transitioning off of Google, so like I don't have a set plan on what that looks like, but it can be an open sort of space for us to work together to get off of Google as much or as little as we can at this moment, which I think is really helpful. It's also like an all or nothing game where you're just like, I have to completely get off of tech and get a non-smartphone and live in the woods. You can dip your toes and work little by little to get as much tech into or out of your life as is comfortable for you. So we're going to explore, like I said, the basics of digital security, why it matters, who's watching, and how you can protect yourself and your community. And a lot of people will think when they hear data protection, like, who's going to spy on me? Like, I'm not, what am I doing that's worth spying on? And it doesn't necessarily have to be that mindset of like, oh, you're doing super secretive things that you don't want people to know that. You just be like, you don't want to be tracked. You want to resist the mass surveillance state that we are currently living in and that is ramping up. You want to support freedom and the right to protest, which is getting ever encroached on in these trying times. You want to protect your own identity against theft and fraud, which I can tell you a few weeks ago, my father got in a very specific scam, and our elders are very vulnerable to these tech attacks and these scams and fraud things going around. And it also demoralizes people. And my father felt like he was very much, he was like, wow, it sounds so simple when you explain it like that, and I should have just known not to fall for it. And I was like, they make it sound like they're the authority and they're there to help you and they're tech support, but they are not. And unfortunately, then you let them remotely into your computer and do a lot of stuff. So it's a way to protect against identity theft and fraud, which can mess up with a lot of your things. Like, I think my dad just finally finished with his banking stuff, and this happened maybe like a month ago. So you can get back on your feet after something like that, but it is a disruption, and it does take time, and you do have to have that time to kind of sit down and work through it. So this is to protect against that or having to do that. And it's just to build kind of like a herd immunity for you and your community. Like if everyone's starting to take all these digital security practices, a lot of big tech companies and data brokers, data miners will have a lot more of a tough time actually mining our data. And that is also a good thing to have. It may not be, bulletproof or Fort Knox or whatever, but any little hurdle in their way is good to throw.
And I almost got that.
That's so easy. I know I also say, like I said at the beginning of this or my intro that I don't think it's recorded, but I'm not an expert. I'm not in cybersecurity. I'm someone who's just been practicing this pre, post, and in our current pandemic and our current times. And it's just stuff that I've looked into and kind of made myself be aware of and practice. And that's the thing about security culture, is just getting yourself into the practice of doing it is something that is like a lifelong journey, but like that you work on and you start somewhere. And you don't have to, like I said, jump in wholeheartedly. You can dip your toes in and work your way in. So this ties into the previous thing. It's it's not just the NSA that is listening, or who are we protecting ourselves from? Hackers, bots, scams, police, and corporations that are tracking data, sales, marketing. I mean, everything we have is marketed to us. Like every social media, especially all the ones that are free, are tracking our data, tracking ads. They're selling us something, but actually we are also the product in these things. Like our data and our choices and what we do in those apps and those social media things, how we click on ads or don't click on ads, click on people's profiles, engage in comments. These things are all trackable. These things are all useful to corporations and data brokers. So, and obviously also state surveillance. NSA, Five Eyes, programs. You don't need to be a spy to be targeted, and most threats are going to come from low-level hackers or corporations. So even the basic security measures make you a harder target. You can even stop someone from guessing your simple password and make it a slightly complicated password. That is a hurdle in their way, and then you may move on to somebody else, somebody that's easier to hack, and that is the actual truth. I want to read it. Mass surveillance is real. There is nowhere in our country, in a lot of other countries globally, where mass surveillance is not a thing. So, and it's all bad. It's not pointing out here and saying this is the worst, and this one is somewhat good, and this one is, not as bad. They're all bad in some way, shape, or form. So. Governments retain phone and internet metadata. Police use this stuff to spoof phones at protests. They use this data to track who has gone to protests, where they're going, what they're doing. Big Brother is always watching. I don't say that to try and scare you. I just say it so that we are all aware and conscious that this is all around us. This is a thing. This isn't just a fringe theory anymore. It's a reality. It's a fact. It's a fact. So quick things you can do, and I'm not saying you need to do all of these things, and this is not an exhaustive list of things you can do, but some things you can do for better security. Do something like a VPN, which will cloak where you are trying out your internet from. Very simplistic terms. You can enable two-factor authentication, which is designed to have multiple steps so that new logins to your accounts are actually going through you.
Small question. To double check, two-factor authentication is like when you put in your password and then it sends you a text afterwards,
Yes.
or I feel like there's a lot of stuff where you have to get an authenticator app.
I
Sometimes
have
too.
an authenticator app. There's different ways to have two-factor authentication. One of the most prevalent ones is an account sending you a text or sending you an email. This way, if someone's trying to sign in and you randomly get a text in your phone that says your account login code is whatever, and you haven't tried to sign in, you can know, oh, someone's trying to sign in. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to go into panic mode right then, but you can just be aware and be like, oh, maybe someone's trying to sign into my Gmail, and maybe I can change my password, make it a little harder. And obviously don't, respond to that text or do anything with the text, because usually those security texts are, just sent and they're non-responsive anyway. But you'll see sometimes if it's an email to you, it'll say, if this wasn't you requesting this, just ignore this email. And truly just ignore and delete that email, and we'll be kind of good to move on. And like I said, maybe evaluate, oh, do I change my password up? Do I do this? Do I do that? Because someone is trying to tap. But that is a measure that is instead of whoever was trying to sign in just being immediately able to sign into your account, it's saying, oh wait, this is a weird device. Is this you? And you can say, no, that was not me. I don't live in Nevada, so no, it was not me. Trying to sign in.
How do you get a VPN? Or how do you use a VPN?
Well, I
don't even know.
I myself am still looking into lots of different VPNs. Right now, from what I've seen, the trusted ones are Proton, which also Proton offers like a Google or Gmail alternative, Proton Mail, and they do offer a VPN in that. It is a paid service that you're going to be using that is in addition to something like your internet or your phone bill or something. It is like a monthly or annual kind of subscription. But I would suggest actually, paying for a VPN if that is something that you're interested in, like a free service. Anything that is free, you have to always question, like, why is it free? It's because you are the actual product. You're not getting a product for free. They are getting you for free. So always be aware of that when you see free things.
They pimping you out.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. And for the VPN, that's something that you would, like, do you want it on all the time? Or to my understanding, it's something that like you have on if you're on like public Wi-Fi.
Yeah, this is
Or like
something.
untrusted Wi-Fi, like you don't
Untrusted
trust the house's
Wi-Fi,
Wi-Fi.
or say if you're even at home, if you want to use it to be like, hey, I want to see what's on British Netflix, you can tell your VPN, hey, I'm signing in from Britain, and I would like to see what Netflix has to offer if they think that I'm in Britain, because there are some slight variations of the way that other countries do see the internet. They are not actually all on the same internet. People like to talk about the Great Firewall, which I think is honestly, coming down at this point, especially with the various ways people have found to make contact and to connect with people who are in like China and other Eastern cultures and Eastern countries. But there are still lots of things that are different country by country. And there are different things, like I use streaming as a very like easy example to take of saying like, hey, I would like to see what Netflix is offering in Australia, like what movies and what TV shows and what things do they have. So VPN can mask you and say like, hey, this person's signing in from Germany, and then your internet, like whatever you're trying to sign into, actually realizes like, oh, this person's in Germany, so they can't actually see, or they can see what's in Germany, but they can also maybe see what's in America, but we're going to give them a slightly different experience.
Also, if you're pirating a lot, you definitely want a VPN then, because if not, then your internet provider is going to catch you. Like I have a VPN to my boyfriend Lawrence and Verizon's already penalized us twice.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you later. He has a whole crazy thing. Not for the recording. Sorry, you guys.
Yeah.
Pirating is a
We can edit.
201 201 presentation.
That's good.
But yes, VPN would be, your base level of like, if you want to get into something like that of streaming, or pirating and torrenting. That is a whole rabbit hole that you can go down, but you definitely want to start with the VPN so that you're a little bit more separated from where you're actually accessing your internet and where it reads your internet as, if that makes sense. So other quick wins that you can do is ditching people with Facebook, and I say this knowing exactly how hard it is. I myself am still in the process of de-Googlifying, still getting off of Facebook. I am not on Facebook on my phone anymore, but I do check it on my laptop. But it has helped in that I'm not just, doom scrolling on my phone.
Oh man.
Because there are some, well, I don't want to say there are very useful elements, but like there are a lot of groups and activities and things that are still happening on Facebook that can be useful and you may want to take advantage of, but you have to weigh that with the way that Meta is slowly consuming and leaking and selling your data. So you do have to balance that out and decide for yourself what you're comfortable with. Right now, I'm still comfortable having a Facebook, but not having the app on my phone itself. And I would also implore, if you do want to keep it on your phone, to maybe think about ditching Facebook Messenger app from your phone, because that is a singularly malicious app that will ping every single thing all around you at all times, even when you're not using the app, even when you've kind of gone into your phone settings and say, don't do this, don't do that. They've still found that it is pinging things weirdly and trying to pinpoint where you are and pinpoint different location data off of you. So I would say, even if you weren't stepping back from Facebook completely, get rid of the Facebook Messenger app on your phone is a good step to just do anyway, to not have that constantly with you at all times. And if you access Facebook through a laptop or through a web browser on your phone, you can check those messages a little bit more buggy and not as like smooth an experience as the app, but you can still do it, and that way you don't have to have the app doing all its weird malicious like ridiculousness in the background of your phone at all times. Yeah. I mean, when I read all of that, I was like, oh, immediately deleting that immediately.
I literally just did it.
And I like,
I
you know,
literally just
I do one of those like blaze through, like when you're in grad school or even when you're in undergrad, you kind of learn how to like blaze through papers or articles really quick and kind of get to the thesis of the thing, the meat and potatoes, and you're kind of like, so I don't have all the exact like big points that they brought up, but I just remember like maliciously pinging everything around you that has Wi-Fi or abilities of tracking. And I was like, yeah, that sounds terrible. I don't want that. No. But I can try and find something that does talk more about that. But I think also if you just, as much as we're not trying to Google things anymore, you can actually still use Google to look up things like that that are not super sensitive. I would suggest if you're doing still Google searches is using a little bit of like library, the old school library kind of not really Boolean searching, but like you can add to the end of your search negative AI, and you can then it will stop spitting out AI answer at you with the whatever the thing is.
Yeah,
Gemini at the very top saying like here's all the aggregate of whatever these websites are telling you. I mean it'll still be like a lot of paid sites at the very top and all of that garbage, but you can wade through that, but you can eliminate like an AI summary at the very top of your Google search. If you want to do that, if you're so using Google. I'm trying to find something better. You can encrypt your devices, or you can use encrypted services, like I touched on briefly, like Proton Mail. There's other things like instead of using your phone's native text messaging app, you can download something like Signal, which is a text messaging, phone, and video messaging app that is encrypted, and it is I'm totally losing what it was called, but it's like basically two-way encrypted. So no one is going to actually, even anybody who intercepts an encrypted message is not going to be able to read it because you have to have both keys to be able to read it. So I do try and get as many people, whether they're in community organizing or into cybersecurity, to get onto Signal. It is a lot easier to use than you think. You can use it like any other texting app, any other phone call or video calling app. You can make groups. You can do lots of granular things within groups and group messages. You can do things like muting them completely when you don't want to hear them. It's a lot easier than I found even in the native text apps when I get thrown into family group chats to like mute them. I'm like, how do I mute this and not get like pinged 20 times a day from my aunt? What are we doing? So I found it is a lot easier and simple to do stuff like that if that is also a concern. But like I said, the issue is trying to get other people that you know who are not sort of like in this mindset of like, oh, I should use encrypted, things to engage with other people. So it is that barrier of entry of like, oh, I have to download another app thing. And it's like, yeah, but this is probably an app you should download. I'm not gonna always recommend like, oh, you should download this app. And I'm like, you should probably download this app. It's pretty good. But like when I talk to Erin, they're like, you should probably download the Too Good to Go app because
No, I got Too Good to Go too.
so good.
Oh, I haven't done it yet. I'm about to do it now.
But basically, around here, it's gonna be pizza and bagel places, but you can get, very discounted pizza and bagels and other sort of goodies.
Talking about Too Good to Go, how did we get there?
Yep, because I was saying I was like, I'm not gonna recommend you download apps, but Signal is good. And then I was like, yeah, you should also download Too Good to Go because that's a good app too.
We're waste girly, so.
Exactly. Trash pandas.
And the last little kind of thing that I have on here is updating software. It is important that you update software. I know a lot of people, including other people that I've worked with who are older, or even some people who are younger than me, like, oh, my computer's running like this, I don't want to do the update. It is actually better that you update your computer. Might like freak out at you for a second, but these are things that are constantly being updated with patches and security things, because as these things age, hackers and bad actors and and scammers and people will find ways to backdoor themselves into these systems. So updating your operating system, updating your phone's operating system, these things are actually good because they will help keep you more secure. So I know it is annoying sometimes, and you do have to also see if you have older tech, how far you can actually update and what updates you can stay up on. But if you have the ability to, and your computer or your phone is saying update to this, you generally most times do want to try and update, just because it will help keep it a little safer. And having a lot of your small changes make a big difference. And you can start with these basics to reduce tracking and hacking. And like I said, you don't have to use all. You can, start with one. Jump in with all 5 of these. You can look up even more things that you can do. This is a process, and everyone's gonna have their own kind of pace. But getting into the mindset of like using them is more of the important part. Yeah, so this slide is more about mobile security. Phones are getting pretty complex, and you shouldn't actually trust them completely with a lot of your stuff. But on the other hand, there are so many things that we need to interface with our mobile phones, with other handheld tech that we have available to us. But you should always be conscious and be aware of like ultimately who owns this technology and who is putting forth this technology and these software developments, who is actually benefiting and who's actually doing things on these. So you can always kind of like, it really will depend on what phone you have. You will have to kind of like be your own educator, be your own teacher in a sort of way of like what your phone is, what it can and cannot do, what you could or could not do on it, and what you should or should not do on it. So there's a lot of different things, and I know this is like a big wordy kind of slide, but that's why the slides will be available to you afterwards. And like I said, you can jump in with like one or a few, or eventually work your way all the way through it, because it will also depend on what tech you are using. So, I don't want to give advice for Android users if I don't use an Android, or iPhone users if I only have used Androids, because these are different systems and different ecosystems, and they do behave slightly differently. So you will have to kind of like learn your own tech to know what its constraints are and what you feel comfortable giving it and not giving it. So all that to say, I'm not going to go too deeply into this, but it is good to have as a reference, and it is good to learn the tech that you own too, and also get into the mindset of thinking about your tech long term. I know we have all these things that every few years things come out and they're new and they're updated. Aside from software updating, hardware updating is a huge issue and something that we should all be conscious of like, are these things that I need to update, or are these things that I don't really need to, but they're being pushed at me because that is the capitalist world that we live in, the consumerist, world that we live in. So also always think about that with your phone kind of stuff of like, what is going to enable you to do the things you need to do in the reality that you live in the area that you live in the things that you're doing, and what your needs are.
Yeah, I just want to make a plug for not updating your hardware often because of where the minerals are mined, and that we have to be mindful of using less as
what we have.
using what we have already. So a lot of implications and crossover with the waste industry, and also with child labor and the way we're being extractive of our resources. So all those things are reasons why. Skip the iPhone 17 upgrade.
The iPhone, whatever number we're at.
Yeah.
think about, your phone's longevity, think about, what you can repair, like, oh, it's got a chip or a crack in the screen. How easily can you repair that versus, oh, I should just go get a new phone. Like, think about those things. And I know that tech also does make it difficult for us to do that because they fight against things like right to repair, and they have what is called planned obsolescence into everything of our lives. It's not just boomers who are just like, oh, they don't make stuff like they used to. I mean, they really don't.
They really don't. I can't get a good
part
can
of
opener. I'm gonna keep saying that.
Part of that is, you can't use asbestos anymore. It's a great insulator, but you probably shouldn't use it to insulate anymore because it is terrible. It causes cancer when you don't, seal and handle it properly. Stuff like that. Or like, hey, you shouldn't use lead in your paints because it's not great. So there's some of that, like, yeah, they don't make it like you used to because some of the processes and materials are just not good and realize they're not good to use. But there's also the sinister aspect of like, hey, we can make this thing that we know will break down in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whereas we used to build them to last 30, 40, and 50 years. So also think about that. Think about how we are constantly sold these like fridges that now have like TVs in them that you can see how you can also see the contents of your fridge? You can open the fridge door. You can open it up instead of looking at a TV screen that shows you the inside your fridge. Like I don't get it. I don't get it, but that's apparently what we need to have in our pretty kitchens in 2025. We need that fridge that shows you the contents of your fridge, and I'm like, what are we doing? What's going on?
I kind of do need that, but I don't.
Like I get it.
We see a video of the back of the fridge.
Just glass doors.
Yeah.
Yeah, or whatever. Kind of.
Get the deli fridges. I mean, they probably are actually built to last.
Which one?
Deli fridges.
The deli fridge. Yeah, I need a deli fridge.
That's where you should go. Oh my god. What's the Costco version? Restaurant Depot. You have to go to Restaurant Depot and buy a can opener. It's gonna last.
It's gonna
there.
last
It's for a
forever.
restaurant.
All right, cool. That's a good idea.
And a lot of these things that you can do to up your cybersecurity, your digital security, hygiene, as we say, is going to be all about convenience versus security. The convenience of having an easy password is that it is a security issue and people can easily hack it. So the slight inconvenience of having longer passwords or a password manager that will, spat a whole bunch of gibberish that no one will ever hack in, millions of years because your supercomputers that are working through algorithms are never going to guess that actual combination that is spewed out, that is random. That is an inconvenience when you have to be like, well, now I have to remember the password to my password manager so that I can sign in and do that. But the convenience of an easy password is you can get hacked very easily. So it's always weighing this cost benefit analysis, Like I said, the convenience of being able to just text anyone, all of your normie friends and anyone versus using something like Signal where you can just text and know that the NSA is actually not reading your text, is not reading, your stuff. There's other things on Signal that you can send messages that disappear after a certain number of times. Although, if you do have Signal and you use Signal, be aware that when you're setting disappearing messages, if you're setting it to, say, 48 hours, that 48 hours will not start until the other person has received the text and read it. That is when the 48 hours starts. So if you send a text thinking, okay, in 2 days from now it's going to be gone, no. Just know that they have to have read it first and then the 2 days begins. So that is something to keep in mind if you are sending time-sensitive information via Signal, but you can set these kind of granular settings of saying that I only want messages in this group chat to last a week because whatever we're talking about is just weekly and relevant to this week and then it goes away. But you also have to be aware everyone in that group has to have read that text.
Thank you.
So, while Signal is great, it does have its limitations, but I always will recommend it over your normal texting app. And yeah, the convenience of something like Google Drive versus having encrypted backups, having physical backups, getting, hard drives or SSD drives, or external hard drives from your local computer store, computer card store, and actually making physical backups of your files that you have control over. Then you can start actually deleting these things from these cloud services and being like, well, I don't need them on this cloud service so that whoever has access to them, and I will have them in my desk drawer. I do urge you to look into doing that if storage and data, space is an issue for you. If you find yourself paying for cloud services and saying like, oh yeah, it's just like 99 cents a month or $1.99 a month or whatever, it adds up over time, one. And second of all, they have access to these things. So if you want to actually be in control of your data, you need to start like kind of being like a dragon and hoarding the physical aspects. We gotta be more smog-like, okay? But not with gold.
Oh, now with what?
No,
Not with gold.
Oh.
And what we always try and say, stay skeptical, stay safe. No tool is going to be, secure, 100% secure forever. Even just a few months ago, at the beginning of this year, rather, which that's a few months ago, people were talking about some issue that was coming up on Signal that they didn't think it was as secure, or some people were, maybe it wasn't Signal actually, I think it was Proton now. They were like, oh, well, I think that someone made a request to them and they wanted to look into the thing, but I think Proton actually did fight it in whatever country that requested the data, and they were like, no, we can't give you the data, it's encrypted, and we're not going to because we're also in, I think they're Swedish based, and they're also like under Swedish law, we don't actually have to, so the rule kind of thing. So, but just be aware of these things happening. So do read up on what is happening with Signal, what's happening with Proton Mail or other encrypted services that you may want to use or are using currently. Look into these things and kind of be aware of what is happening, but also, don't talk yourself completely out of using it if there are things that, there's red flags that you should be like, oh, maybe I should not use that because they are acquiescing to, police requests to hand over data. That's not a good company that I want to give my data to. But if, you see like, oh, they've been requested and they're threatening it and they're doing this, then maybe it's something you just want to keep an eye on and keep aware of and be like, that is something to watch and be aware of, but maybe I can still use them because they are fighting this, which means they realize that they don't want to just hand over our data. They want to fight for those protections for that data privacy. So, and security is constantly evolving, so things will change, they'll get sold, they'll get hacked, things will get patched and fixed. That's why, again, I said like updating software, which is different from updating hardware. Software is your physical, software is like your OS system or your computer's operating system like Windows or Apple or whatever, your phone's operating system with Android, whatever, 14 versus OS 18.1, so versus hardware, which is your actual laptop, your actual phone, your physical device, and staying on top of updates as much as your current device will allow is good because it will fix some of those issues of, oh, there was a backdoor here that somebody figured out and now we patched it and fixed it. So again, you do want to stay updated on that kind of stuff. And your actions over time are going to start protecting others, just like vaccines work. It will create a sort of herd immunity. If data brokers and data collectors and data hackers realize that, oh, there's so many people now who are encrypting their data, who are using two-factor authentication, who are doing this, who are using longer passwords and a password manager that, the password is not something that is even totally related to them, like their goddaughter's birthday or something. It's just some random thing that we'll never figure out. That can start to build up immunity from these attacks, from these, hacks and these scams. They will unfortunately evolve into different things, but at least the way that they were attacking is no longer something that will work as easily. And security culture is really like a team effort. It is really going to be something that you will have personally, you will have professionally, you will have within your, let's say, pod, like a group of friends or, your coworkers. And it's really something that you're going to build up over time, and with consensus, you're going to like say that, hey, I think we should all at the same time move off of this platform, or move off of using this system or that system. And that is something, if you're working in a group, that you can work together towards. But if individually you're like, I would like to, like, I want to move off of Google, that's something that I'm taking individually. And I can go as fast as or as slow as I want to or need to with that. If you're working with a group, it is good to have sort of like deadlines. Say, hey, let's try and get off of Google by, the end of 2025 or something like that. Like set a deadline if you're working within a group. You can set a deadline for yourself too if you want to do that. But you can also take it as you want to be like, oh, I was thinking I would be off of Google by the end of this month, but actually it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So give yourself some grace and be like, well, it will take me a little longer, but I'm working towards it. You know, and yeah, I mean, you can decide things together that certain protocols, like encrypted chats, or even just having face-to-face meetings, even deciding like, hey, we're going to have a meeting. And it's going to be no phones, no computer, no tech, whatever. We're all going to leave them at the door, and we're going to go to the backyard and start a fire and talk amongst ourselves and just have an informal meeting where we talk about things. Those are things you can decide with
That's a
your group
good
as well.
idea. I like that idea.
It's a very good idea. That's what we should do in the
Next
garden all the
membership meeting
time.
idea.
Yeah, check the phones at the door and go in the back and have meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can even get things that enable,
Off the watch, don't worry.
Yes, all tech.
you can leave all tech.
We all talked about that, right? Like how many like family functions I've been at, like, I never talked about playing pickleball, and for some reason, you know, I found the pickleball table coming up out of my email, you know, like.
Yeah, it's
So-
whatever's.
Now we're all
around you.
gonna have
Pickleball.
Bye-bye.
Great.
I tried to
great.
put
I'm a
something in.
pickleball trainer.
I'll send it to you. I can't wait.
I don't understand it. What is it?
Or we all
Why-
find payphones.
Yeah.
Me and Joe are talking about
You can get
PayPal.
as high tech as you want to, like no tech meetings. You can leave them, you do something simply like, hey, leave them at the door. Or you can even say like, hey, we're gonna put them in Faraday bags at the door. And Faraday bags are something that will block your actual phones or whatever,
Any tech.
any text like signals that they're constantly sending out via Bluetooth, via Wi-Fi, you know, all these like invisible to us waves that they're sending out constantly to communicate with each other and with the internet at large. And Faraday bags.
How much
can-
do they cost?
You can get ones that are phone size that are pretty decently priced. I want to say like under 20, under 30. You can get
Like
really
the
big
big,
ones
like-
that will fit like laptops or, you know, things like
Things
whatever
to
this
say.
owl thing is. Things that will fit other things.
Totally.
I don't know if they make any, like, if you want to like, the new thing is like smart TVs. We were talking about like smart refrigerators. There's also smart TVs. I don't know if they make Faraday bags that are big enough to just hood over a TV or anything, but that could be something to think about too. But in that case, a TV is something really easy where you can be like, I'm just going to unplug this smart TV. Because if it doesn't have power going to it, it's not going to be doing much of anything. We hope. Now, okay, now we gotta crack open the shelf, see if there's a little battery that we gotta do a look out for. Now, generally, if I don't see the little red light on TV, which means it's on standby mode, then my TV's off. I used to like really save on my power bills by like literally plugging everything into strips and then unplugging or turning off that strip. Because it does turn everything off. And I was like, oh, my printer's not with the little like light on, my TV doesn't have the little light on, even like as annoying as it was, I was like, well, I don't really actually need my microwave to tell time, like I don't really care.
Let me, I thought you were gonna tell you what I did. I put black tape over that.
It's so bright too.
It was just too bright. I was sleeping and it was just in my face. And I was like, I got
Yeah, just unplug the girl.
my boyfriend came home. He was like, what? And everything blocked. All the
I mean, they are annoying, but they also do let you know, like, oh, this thing
the
has power going
stoves.
to it. So if you see something that has an LED, if you see something that's lit up, you do know that power is going to that. So if there is something that you want to actually do, I saw that years ago and I started doing that, and I was like, yeah, I did notice a drop in my electricity bill when I started doing that, and I was like, well, now it just becomes then it becomes like a practice. Like I still do that to this day because I was like, well, it does save me on electricity, and then I also don't have to worry about my smart TV listening to me in the middle of the night as I'm dream talking or whatever.
2 for 1.
2 for 1. I'm winning both ends. All right, so that brings us sort of like to the end of my little presentation. Like I said, this was a basic like primer, but all the information that I got in this presentation was gathered from the Digital Security Guide for Everyone, which is on the commonslibrary.org. Everything was licensed through Creative Commons. Some additional resources, as I said, that I would love for everyone to continuously check out and follow any way they can. They're on all the things, good and bad, Twitter, Facebook, Lipc, but they're also on things like, I think they're on Red Note, or Shanghou. They're on TikTok for as long as we still have that sort of working for us. And they do, obviously have their website, and there's something that they put bulletins out, information out. They have these security starter pack pages, the protest safety basics guide, which is a very good guide to actually know too. And then, as I said too, Cyber Lipc. I mainly had followed them on Instagram, which is one of the only meta things I do have on my phone still that I'm working to transition off of my phone. But it's so hard because I follow really good creators like this who put out informative, posts. It's not just like, I do have some that it's like, oh, look at this pretty shiny thing. I'm like, ooh, shiny. I have the program, obviously. But I also, I'm like, oh, this person actually is like informed and it's telling me something that I didn't know or I only knew a little bit about, but they're going into more depth. So good to know. But their site is great and they offer all these sort of resources. And they're always for the people's education, for safety, privacy, and liberty. So they are great sources to have. Like I said, I've sent the folks here the PDF of this. Joe, I can send it to you via Signal if you need. And that way you can get this. Anybody who is here digitally, but also if you just want to send it out to people on list, there's nothing groundbreaking about this, but it's good to have this presentation of these sort of like resources in here for easy viewing. And then the next slide is basically a de-Googling session, which you can join us in. You can make a list for yourself of like, hey, I want to de-Google and have this done. It's really like very open-ended. I at first was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have a very set like template of what we're gonna do. But it really will depend on you and how comfortable you are of like what you want to actually transition away from at this time right now, or set for yourself like, hey, I'm just gonna make like a tracker right now. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna make a list of like what I would like to do and the steps that I think we have to accomplish that. And I find that working or co-working together, either in a group physically or even in a group digitally, like digital spaces are still great spaces to use and organize in. Zooms are good. We're looking for encrypted video. Signal does have encrypted video capabilities, but a site called Jitsi is also great to use for video conferencing. It is similar to Google Workspace in that you can just set up a meeting and invite people in that link, but it has no time limit, which is great, and it is encrypted. If the group gets bigger, I would say than like a dozen people, that's when it can get a little buggy, but you probably shouldn't be having like that big of a group digital meeting. Maybe you want to set something up in real life. That's also a possibility. So yeah, if there's any questions, I can't say that I will absolutely know the answer, but I will tell you if I don't know the answer, and maybe we can find it out together. Because I always think that that is also a helpful thing to do, is research things together and find things out together. And like I said too, at the beginning of this, I don't want to call myself the expert. I feel like when somebody calls themselves an expert in something, it precludes them from wanting to learn and know more and grow their capabilities. So everything that I've put together is everything that I found out. And if you find out some stuff that's interesting, I would love to know from you and hear from you and learn from you. That's why I like to keep that open, and that like, hi, I'm the teacher and talking to you in the pedagogic sort of like rigor. I like a more open thing of like we're collaborating together. Like I know some stuff, you may know some stuff, and we're all like pooling our knowledge base and sharing our skills.
Good old fashioned skill share.
Thank you.
Good old fashioned skills there.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
I'm recording, I think that is good because the Google session is more of like an open thing, and then we can get a little bit cozier with anybody who wants to stay on. I don't even know what time it is.
So about be
4 minutes to 8.
4 minutes date. So yeah, we'll have like a 30-minute kind of session of like what you all want to work on, what we all want to work on, and we can kind of brainstorm all together. That sound good?
Yes.
All right.
I'm gonna have to jump off, but I just had one question. If you had any good resources of how to protect your data on digital devices as you travel, I've been seeing different things online, of course. But if you had a good resource that might consolidate that, like when you're going abroad, for example.
All right, I got heard of that question. Did anyone hear that in full?
Traveling?
yeah. Can
Is
you
it
repeat
dead?
that? I don't know why the hell was turned off.
Or maybe,
Maybe
yeah.
it's
No,
let's
I
make
was on.
died.
Oh.
Oh, it died.
Yeah, but it's plugged in, so how would it die?
They heard us talk about.
Did
Googling.
Christine accidentally
Oh, did I actually? Oh, it's not
unclick
plugged
it?
in.
Because you're like, unless I'm clicking.
Hey, Mike.
Oh.
Hold on, we're gonna.
Hold on one second.
All right, repeat that question, please.
Hopefully we all-
Sure. Thank you so much for the presentation. Just had a question about how to protect your data while you're traveling. I've of course heard a bit about when you're going through airports, how to protect your phones and laptop data. And if you don't have I've been seeing things online. If you had a resource that I could go to, that would be great.
I've heard a lot of different ways. It depends on what you're comfortable with. What you're comfortable doing for your vacation or your trip. If it is possible for you to travel without your laptop or your phone,
Right.
that might be an option, because that way you have nothing for them to actually search and possibly retain.
Right.
There is the possibility of like, hey, you just get like a vacation phone, a phone that like just sends calls and messages and that's all it does. And maybe that's the phone you want to take on vacation. So even when they look at it, you're like, well, it's just a phone that I've only had for this week. So there's nothing incriminating on it. Anyway, you can also always kind of delete apps and data from your phone. You can back that up and say, all right, I don't want to actually have my email on my phone. So I'm going to delete that app. And that way they cannot, even if they could compel you to open up your phone, they won't be able to access it because you deleted that data from your phone. Again, before you do these kind of things, you do want to have